Ha 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 ha. We're back, baby! Yo, what's up, guys? Today here on Tobe Game Vlogs, here to bring you my teen romantic comedy SNAFU Season 2, because for some reason everybody's doing this thing now. When we do Season 2, instead of actually putting TWO, we gotta put TOO. Why is this a thing? I don't get that. Anyways, let's just jump into it. So, we're going to talk about all the aesthetic stuff first before getting into the first episode and explain why this episode review is coming out a little later than what it probably should have. First things first. Music, the opening sounds like, to me it sounds like a good sequel to what the first season's opening was. I think it's actually the same artist doing it. Also, the ending is also sung by the voice actors of Yui and Yuki Noshita, like I believe it was in the first season, so we're keeping up that continuity. The animation is better overall, period. That's not even a question. The only thing I think I ever questioned with the animation was more so the thing with Hikigai's face, which is actually due to how bad, not terrible, but how bad the animation was for the first season. The first season's animation was pretty meh. But Hikigai's face is what came out of that meh animation. He was a really jagged face. His eyes, like, he looked like the most anime-ish out of all the characters. Like, his face looked completely like lack of humanistic characteristics. Like, compared to the other characters, his face looked completely off. And I agree that that's how he looked weird in comparison. But, like, you didn't really notice it in the first season because it wasn't so ridiculous. And two, it kind of worked for his character. Like, I never really sat there and went, oh, Hikigai's face doesn't mesh well with the rest of the characters' faces. But after seeing the second season and the interaction of the characters there, you can tell that was the biggest problem with Season 1, is that the face thing. And that was my biggest problem with this Season 2 anyway, about the new studio taking it over. I was like, and then you saw Hikigai's first character design, and his face looked way too, like, normal for me. And I was like, ugh. What is this? I don't want. Where's my senpai at? But when you actually watch it in motion, there's no problems. And the animation is better overall anyway, so, like, I definitely don't have any problems after seeing the first episode. And I've watched it twice. I watched it, for one, Crunchyroll did not get, like, the point-on-point simulcast. See, people don't realize this, but, like, Crunchyroll simulcast all depends on what the publisher allows. And the first season wasn't like, the first season I think was actually like a week behind. It was either a week or a few days behind of what actually came out in Japan. So you could technically look up fan subs of the first season episodes before you get them on Crunchyroll because of some time constraints. And it seems like the same thing is happening with Season 2, maybe to a lesser extent, because the first episode for Season 2 came out like early Friday, but we didn't actually get it on Crunchyroll until like 1 o'clock Saturday morning. And I don't know if that's just because that's what happened for this week or that's just going to be the thing. But I watched it twice. Specifically, I wanted to watch the Crunchyroll version because I've started to realize this after watching Crunchyroll for so long. Fan subs kind of suck for a lot of different reasons. And for shows specifically like dialogue-heavy shows in which, you know, the way you phrase the words matter, fan subs love to take liberties with shit. That's why there's a lot of... That's why fan subs are usually more vulgar. And fan sub are usually a lot more, like, random with its wording, and there's a lot more cursing and shit. Because, like, for some reason, fan subbers believe that every anime character is cursing and saying God damn it and bastard and asshole and fuck and all this other wording. And I did not care for the fan sub translation for the first episode. I actually waited to watch the legal version, and I rewatched it, and that was better. A lot better. So let's get into the first episode and talk about some stuff. So first thing to note right off the bat is that you can obviously tell that, I guess the way the first season, this season starts out is that it implies that episode 13 of their first season is canon. You know, the one that technically isn't canon, the filler episode, the sports festival one. That's not canon, but because it was written by the creator, you could count it as canon. Plus that there's nothing really of consequence that happens in that episode to really matter. So if you counted it as canon or not, it wouldn't affect anything. But the one thing about that episode that kind of makes the transition easier is the fact that that episode really starts showing how the group has kind of come together and are actually closer now than they were originally. And the first episode of this season really pushes that home in two specific areas. The first area is, if you noticed, one of the first things was that when Yukinosha was pouring drinks, she usually doesn't do Kikigai any favors. She actually poured him a cup of tea this time. That's the first thing. The second thing is defending him. Kind of defending him. Like, it's the best Yukinosha will get at defending Hikigaya. Which is because apparently ever since the whole busting out Sagamine thing from the first season, this nigga, I actually finally remembered his name because you hear it so many times in the episode. The orange-haired dude, Tobe, has been using Hikigaya's bullshit name, which is what I call it, which is the name that everyone in the class calls him, except for like Totsuka, Zamokaza, and like Yui Yukinosha, and like Hirutsuka Sensei. Like everybody else, from what I've seen, and maybe like Yukinosha and Haruna, you know, Yukinosha's sister and his sister, obviously. But like everyone in the class, like in Hayama's little bullshit ass group, calls him Hikitani. So Tobe, for some reason, is using that name as a gag about kind of pretty much busting Hikigaya's balls all the time about, I guess, the Sagamine shit. Like, it's a joke that really doesn't make any sense. He's been using it for a while, actually, apparently. And obviously Hikigaya doesn't give a shit, but like, and I don't think Yui, I think Yui gives a shit, but like, when the scene when you first hear him use it, Yui's in that group, but Yui doesn't say anything. But when he actually comes in there asking for help, and then the first thing he fucking says is, oh, I can't talk to Hikigaya about it. He comes in there with Hayama. He's like, oh, I can't talk to Hikigaya about this. You know, Hikigaya doesn't seem trustworthy. And I want to sit there and be like, nigga, you just spent like the first scene of you in the season we've seen, you just bust him out for some bullshit. Like, every Hikigaya fan was like, fuck you the moment you did that, alright, bruh? And then this nigga came in here asking for help, and you still bust this man out about dumb shit, and fucking Yui and Yukinosha were like, no, get the fuck out. Like, Yukinosha actually told them to leave. And see, this is where Hayama's hypocrisy actually starts showing. And granted, there's a few little hints in the episode, but like, the first thing he mentions is like how, the first thing it's like, well, oh yeah, I guess we were in the wrong. Hayama, your boy has been dogging Hikigaya for a while now, and you're telling me that you know, the nice guy who tries to make sure everyone gets along is just gonna let that happen? You can tell you have a mean ass streak towards Hikigaya because you hate the fact that he's right in a lot of situations. So I'm expecting them to have another confrontation because this nigga, you can tell Hayama's on that bullshit. Also because he keeps saying shit as if he's trying to shield Tobe from like the world. Like, for example, they bring up, well, because the whole thing is that apparently he has a thing for Hina, you know, the girl who's in love with boys love. The girl who has this yaoi fan base, is a yaoi fangirl. And they bring up the obvious, well, what if she rejects you? And what if it gets around class and rumors? You know, it's going to kill you, like, socially. You understand that, right? If not already emotionally, about you getting rejected by Hina. And then Hayama's like, oh, don't worry, I got that covered. And he guy's like, the fuck is that? Like, cause that makes no sense. There is nobody who is that good to be like, and you just sit there with his face like, Hayama, that's not even possible. There's no way in hell you could shield him from that. And you can tell Hayama's on that bullshit. So I'm already expecting him and Hikigaya to have that conversation. Also, we've already seen it in the previews for this season anyway. But like, that nigga's out of his fucking mind. Like, I already had my distrust of Hayama from the first season. This season is probably gonna bring that home. Apparently they're also going on their stereotypical field trip. I say stereotypical because almost every slice of anime does this shit. Where they go to the field trip, and it's always in the same area too. I'm trying to think. We had some fun moments. I actually do like, one of my favorite moments in this episode was the whole, how she wasn't excited, how Yukinosha was trying to play off how she wasn't excited for the trip. Even though she actually had a magazine in the room where she was obviously excited and she knew all this extra shit about the place they were going. And you see this scene of Yui and Hachiman looking at each other, and Hachiman just smiles, but like Yui giggles, and you're like, that's kind of cute to me, because like they never had in jokes like that. In the first season, they were getting to that point, but you can see that it's actually progressed. Like, as a group, they can kind of like laugh-ish with each other. Also, we find in this episode that Yukinosha still has that weakness for that weird panda thing. I don't know what it is. It's like a panda monster thing. Stuff thing that she likes. And then Hina actually comes in and starts talking about how she doesn't like how the dynamic in the group has changed, which I don't know what she's specifically referring to. Saying something like how Tobe has been talking to Hikigaya more often, which doesn't make sense in the context of the episode because we haven't seen any proof of that. She's been talking about Hikigaya more often, which I think might be what she's referring to. And Hina's like, well, I don't like how the dynamic in the group has changed, but I wouldn't mind if Hikigaya were to get along. And you're just kind of like, what is that referring to? Like, the way she phrased it made it seem like, actually this whole episode has a lot of moments like that where you feel like you're missing something. That happens a few times because we also get a flashback about how, because Saiga overhears Yui and Hachima talking about the Tobe Hina situation, and Saiga's like, Totsuka, wow, my brain's done. Totsuka's like, we heard about that during the summer camp, which was from the first season, and then we get a flashback of him saying that he has a thing for Hina. And you were just like, and I was like, wait a minute, when did that happen? And I don't even think Hachima remembered. He was like, when the hell did that happen? So, and then it happens again with the Hirutsuka Sensei at the end with the whole, she's sneaking around and shit and buying alcoholic beverages and then buying them off with ramen. Like, we went from one scene where they're sitting, where Hikigaya and Yukinoshita are sitting there talking, and then they see Hitsuka Sensei, and then the next scene they're being dropped off at a convenience store because apparently she was doing some shit she wasn't supposed to be doing, so she bought them off with ramen and then went to go buy beer. Like that, like, I feel like that was a scene in itself that never got shown, because you even see, I think it was either Yukinoshita or Hirutsuka Sensei passed out over a bowl. I want to say it was Yukinoshita, I'm not sure though. You also still have your cute hat, like, there's a lot of, they actually were pretty balanced with the girls this episode, where they gave some equal time to Yukinoshita and Yui. The Yui stuff was pretty much helping Tobe throughout the situation while having some cute indirect stuff with Yui and Hachiman, with like the whole drinking in the water and indirect kiss bullshit, her getting too close to him while they're looking out the window, and then we have obviously our pseudo gay moments with Totsuka, which, god damn it, I don't give a fuck. This is like the only anime I don't mind this gag. This is like the only anime I can think of that I think the gag is funny for some reason. And that's why I like the show. I don't know why I think it's funny in this one, but I like the Totsuka stuff in this one. He's like, I want to take a bath with Totsuka. I want to protect his smile. Fucking love you, Hikigaya. God damn. I want to protect his smile. Yo. I don't know if we're going to address the whole Sable stuff, you know, the dog and the running over thing yet, because I feel like that still needs to be addressed for it to really come full circle. I feel like Yukinoshita will truly mellow out after that, because she even says some kind of suspect shit. Like, 'cause the last scene of the episode is the weirdest scene of it all, which is the scene in which they're walking back. Yukinoshita's kind of lost, and then, like, as they're walking, Hikigaya gets in front of her, and she's walking behind, and Hikigaya's like, you're going to get lost again if you stay that far back. It's like, and then she mentions how it might be embarrassing if anyone saw us together like this, like, because it's late at night and they're walking back together. So she's trying to put in the idea that she doesn't want people to misperceive them as if they went out together. But at the same time, when they do get to her part of the girls' dorm, she's like, thank you for. She's actually saying goodbye more often now too. Before she used to just leave. But now she says she's saying goodnight and all that other stuff. And she actually thanks him for walking with her, even though they weren't technically walking together. Because there's like this big ass gap. And then the episode ends with him going, I think I'll go home and take a bath with Totsuka. We still need to see when this new girl that they kept showing in the previews and showed even in the character profiles, when they showed the new character designs. This girl we keep seeing, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. They're also apparently going to keep pushing the Tobe stuff, will be the first stuff we're going through. I'm also curious because the scene in which you keep seeing where Yui's like grabbing Hikigaya's like shoulder, like his arm, and then screaming or doing that stereotypical where she yells and all you can see is like her mouth and a blackout of her face with the hairs over her face and shit. Like it looks like a dramatic scene. You can see that scene in the next episode, but I don't know if they're actually going to have that moment in that episode. I don't know, because we also see her sister. We see his sister at home, so I don't know how long this field trip thing is going to last, and I don't know, but first episode was pretty good. There's not too much to really analyze in terms of social commentary because the episode was pretty straightforward. I mean, there's a little bit about what the actual field trip is for. You know, the Hinky guy's little revelation. Also, another funny moment. I like how they can now pick out when he's having, like, emotional flashbacks when he's talking about things. When he was telling Tobe what would happen about being rejected and the bullshit that comes with being rejected by a girl in school. He was like, oh, you're going back into one of your memories again. So, I like how their group dynamic has gotten closer and all this other shit. But, like, the episode was pretty straightforward, so I'm only really picking apart the small little things, not really the social commentary, because there wasn't any for this one. But yeah, that's my general thoughts of first episode of season 2. Please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. And look forward to more. Next week's might be slow, depending on what happens. Well, I'm not gonna. But if the next week's episode review doesn't come out as quick, some shit might happen. So just keep that in mind. Anyways, this has been the Vlogs Game for your boy Terrell, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.